Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The SMG meta in Black Ops 6 actually just got even better. We had an update the other day drop that ended up buffing pretty much every single SMG. And with that said, today I wanted to go through it. Initially, I was going to do the top 5 best SMGs, but we've only got 6 SMGs. So why not just do the best meta class setup for every SMG currently in Black Ops 6? Now that said, I do want to start out first here on true game data. Funny enough, I had actually just recorded this video the other day, and then they dropped the update that ended up buffing a lot of these SMGs. So the setups themselves are going to stay the same, hence why you're going to see a different Zach from the past here in just a moment, breaking down some classes. But as far as the stats go, I do want to give you guys the most accurate info here, and that stems courtesy of true game data. Site is always going to be linked down below. Huge shout out to Tony for putting in the work and getting all this information so quickly updated on the site. But as we go through, we look at obviously full health and then combination shot TTK. We can drop this graph down to about 40 meters. That's probably the max you want to be using. Even then, you're kind of pushing it. Ideally, you're fighting with pretty much every single SMG like 25 meters and closer. That's obviously where they're going to thrive when you factor in their velocities, the general control. They're where they're really meant to be the best. And I mean, it's pretty obvious with this graph, right? This is a super competitive meta. There are so many good SMGs in various different ways. Like, for instance, the Bison. Clearly the worst TTK in the close range. And if you turn on the sprint to fire factor, obviously that's going to be a big deal too. Sprint to fire is a huge stat for all your SMGs. The Bison or the PP919 ends up suffering a lot from a slower sprint to fire. So like that's a setup you'd want to optimize that a little bit more for, maybe stack some attachments there that could help out with that. But then as it gets into the mid range, it becomes a lot more competitive beyond 13 meters and then into that mid range there. It actually ends up being decent up through 20, and you can extend that range depending on your attachments, right? Meanwhile, the quickest TTK options, things like the Kompakt and the KSV, are absolutely frying. You can see through the first 10 or 11 or so meters there, the KSV and the Kompakt, our blue and our green lines, are right there, basically tied for the fastest TTK in the game. And that's when accuracy is going to come into play more. Are you more accurate with a KSV build or a Kompakt build? And whichever one wins for you, that's going to be your fastest TTK SMG. The Jackal, we can see, is absolutely crazy. It's got absurd range out to 15 meters with that first damage range, and then it really doesn't drop off that harsh whatsoever. It ends up being a beast in the mid-range. The Tanto as well, crazy good range, really good in the mid-range, basically the best mid-range SMG that we have, while also being pretty easy to use. Then we have something like the C9, which really I would say is just the most well-rounded SMG in the game. It's right up there with some of the fastest TTKs in that close and first damage range. Then in the mid-range, it just stays consistent with those other options too. It's never too high or too low. It's just straight through and through a very well-rounded, very balanced SMG. So like, quite literally every single option here is good in some ways, maybe more so than others, or good in pretty much every way and every type of fight you'd be asking for from an SMG. So this meta is competitive. It's a ton of fun. That said, let's jump in game and actually break down the best setups for every single SMG here. Now, as we do detail all the setups here today, quick reminder, if you enjoy the video, if you find it helpful at all, a like rating is seriously appreciated. Helps grow the channel and share the video around to new viewers. And if you happen to be one of those new viewers, or maybe you have not subscribed yet, every single day I got you covered with meta breakdowns like this, the latest updates, patch notes, whenever things are being adjusted, weapon buffs and nerfs, new gameplay fixes, things like that, all the latest news and reveals as well. It's here on a daily basis, so feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications, and join us on the road to 1 million subs. Y'all have been absolutely crushing it with the support since Black Ops 6 dropped, so I really do appreciate it. Anyways, first up here we've got our C9. This is honestly one of my favorite SMGs. It just feels so good. It's easy to use, it's agile, aggressive, clean iron sights. Like, to me, like I said in the stat breakdown, this is the most consistent SMG that we have as it stands right now, just because of how reliable it is in every single situation here, right? So first up here, I actually really like the long barrel in this case, extending out our damage range some, so it's just going to be even more effective in its first and second damage ranges, really. You could also mess around with something like the reinforced barrel, which would give you even better velocity up to 715, but even as it stands with just the base long barrel at 550, that's sufficient for an SMG in a lot of the fights that we're going to be using it in, quite frankly. I just go for extended mag 1 here with that 40 round extended mag. That to me is totally sufficient for a lot of multiplayer engagements. You can just quickly get off that reload. Extended mag 2 jumps up to 50, but you are going to be a bit noticeably slower with your ADS speed and on also your sprint to fire. And I really would like to not hurt those if I don't have to, so that's why I personally just opt for extended mag 1. If you do want those 10 extra bullets though, you could choose to go for extended 2. It will just be a little bit slower, so keep that in mind. Ergonomic rear grip is basically the meta rear grip on every single SMG in the game. Better slide to fire speed, dive to fire speed, and better ADS speed as well. So if you are sliding around constantly, if you're ADSing and doing the slide cancel movement consistently, this is the grip for you. Like, that is just so good across the board. Balanced stock is also a super good option on a lot of subs as well. You get better general strafe speed when you're not ADSing, so when you're going forwards, backwards, left, right in general. Better base movement speed, slightly better strafe speed as well when you are ADSing, so this just makes it so that you are more agile and more aggressive in pretty much all scenarios there. Then I really like the recoil springs here just to be extra accurate. Rapid fire would go crazy in this case. Just bear in mind, you're gonna hurt that control some, which could factor out a little bit more in like mid-range fights. You might not be as accurate there, but up close, you'll absolutely fry. So depending on just how aggressive you play with this, I think you can bounce back and forth between recoil springs and rapid fire, but across the board, the C9 just feels phenomenal in my opinion. Now the KSV, quite frankly, has the argument for being the best sub in the game. It has like no recoil. It's so easy to stay on target. Again, super aggressive, that fast close range TTK as well. This thing is an absolute beast. So here yet again, I am starting with the long barrel just to extend out that damage range even more, make sure that we're as efficient and as effective in as many different areas as we can be outside of just, you know, the first 8, 9, 10 meters, right? If you can extend that, your chance of winning those gunfights in the mid-range becomes infinitely greater. Vertical foregrip here just to keep things super accurate. This is going to eliminate pretty much all the horizontal bounce, so you have a very vertical pattern, which means it's super predictable, and then you can just, you know, spray and pray, be dead accurate regardless of the situation you're in. You're not going to have those random bounces left to right that might throw you off and cost you a gunfight. That said, at the same time, the precision foregrip is decent for horizontal control, but not as good as Ranger, which also does horizontal control. And then sprinting movement speed, which makes your general like sprinting speed when you're running around a little bit better too. So that's kind of less control than the vertical foregrip, but more mobility. So you can factor that in if it's super important to you. Extended mag 1 here as well gives us that 40 round extended mag, and the rate of fire here, it's 800, but I feel like 40 is totally sufficient given the stats that, again, extended mag 2 has and how it's hurting your ADS and your sprint to fire there. Ergonomic grip yet again for the better you know, slide to fire and better ADS speeds there. Then lastly, again, recoil springs. Once more, if you really wanted to go all in on rapid fire, you certainly could, but I find accuracy is the most valuable stat in this case, because when you're hitting shots with the KSV, it shreds. Now the Tanto is definitely, I think, the highest skill gap SMG here, just because its fire rate is rough at times. Even with rapid fire on here, it's by far the most unforgiving SMG. If you miss 1 or 2 shots in a gunfight, there's a good chance you're just not going to win that one. You need to hit your shots with this thing, and if you do, it's capable of competing with all the other subs in the game. If you don't, though, I mean, enjoy the kill cam screen, right? By far one of the stranger setups I have here, though, for sure. So I do use the compensator on here to help out with some vertical control, just again to make this thing easier to use. I want to be as accurate as I can be. I do like the vertical foregrip yet again to attack some horizontal control, though. Once more, though, Ranger could be good as well if you want to mess around with that. It's going to do a little bit less for your horizontal control, but a little bit more for your sprinting movement speed there. I also like the CQB grip a little bit here too, because this is going to be sprint to fire and dive to fire, whereas ergonomic is going to be ADS speed. And really, the sprint to fire here needs to be as fast as possible, in my opinion. I want to get out of my slide, out of my sprints, and get into that ADS and start firing as fast as possible. The ADS speed is not the fastest, so ergonomic could be viable as well, but getting as fast of a sprint to fire as possible, I found to be pretty valuable there. I also go again for the balanced stock for the better strafe speed, the better general movement strafe speed, general movement speed as well, just making this thing more aggressive. And then of course, rapid fire to get that fire rate up, so that makes it a little bit less unforgiving. Still though, by far the most unforgiving SMG that we have out of the batch, but it is very fun. I could see this thing being very dominant in Warzone. Hey everyone, just wanted to give a quick shout out to my friends over at G Fuel. If you're like me, you are on that Black Ops 6 grind right now. You are leveling up, you're maxing out your weapons, you're going for the mastery camos, playing the game a ton, you're going all in on those grinds. G Fuel is a major helping hand in making sure you're staying hydrated and energized through it all. They've got the cans, they've got the tubs, they've got the hydration formula as well, so they got you covered on all fronts with a bunch of new flavors, and they're even remastering some classic ones as well. My absolute 3 favorite right now got to be watermelon limeade, hype sauce, and then also starfruit. Those have been my main 3. I'm cycling through the rotation, and they are a huge helping hand as I'm grinding Black Ops 6. 6. If you want to pick up anything at all from the G Fuel site for yourself, however, be sure to throw in code Immortal at checkout. It'll save you some cash, and let's be honest, who doesn't love that? The link will be down in the description below if you're interested. The Bison, of course, is a classic. This thing feels honestly a lot like the MW 2019 Bison. This thing is really good when you get into the mid-range. As we saw on the graph, of course, it's close range the first 10 meters or so, a little bit more mediocre, not crazy far behind if you can focus on sprint to fire and whatnot, but this thing, again, a pretty well-rounded SMG and very easy to use. Once more, I do like the long barrel on here. Gives me that better damage range in general. Our effective damage range being out to 21 meters is pretty crazy there. I also like the fast mag on here. A 50 round extended mag being your base default mag essentially with this on, while also having a faster reload, I think is crazy good. Like, the default mag is already huge. If you can reload it faster, you're gonna be good to go. You can spray and pray, quickly get off that reload and get back into slaying enemies. Ergonomic rear grip here, better ADS speed. You could also switch over to that CQB for a faster sprint to fire as well. Of course, though, that's going to be a difference maker in your ADS versus your sprint to fire values 1-to-1. They knew what they were doing when they made one be really good for ADS and one really good for sprint to fire. You're gonna have to pick and choose there. Both are good though, depending on what you're trying to get the most out of with your weapon. Balanced stock on here yet again, strafe movement, and then also ADS strafe on there. And then I like the recoil springs. If you wanted to help out that TTK in the close range though, rapid fire could be very, very clutch for that, obviously making it a little bit more competitive with those other SMGs in the first 10 to 12 meters or so. So feel free to experiment around accuracy versus rate of fire and see which one feels better for you. Now, of course, the Jackal goes crazy. It was going crazy in the beta, and it's no surprise that here in the full game, this thing is great as well. The crazy good damage range is so noticeable in this thing. Other subs you'll run into, at 25 meters, and this thing will be frying them, 15 meters as well, where those other ones start to drop off past the first dummy, and this thing just doesn't. It's also clean iron sights, easy to use. The blueprint for it's very good as well from the Vault edition. So a lot of ways you could, utilize this thing effectively. I like the Ranger foregrip in this case. The sprinting movement speed is faster, better control as well, so you're still nice and accurate. Extended mag 1 in this case, 40 round extended mag with that 682 RPM is going to be just fine. Ergonomic grip yet again here. Of course, our ADS and our sprint to fire are relatively fast to begin with, this enhancing that a little bit more with that ADS speed, so it's just even more snappy and aggressive. Balanced stock yet again, no surprises here. And then once more, I prefer recoil springs over rapid fire in this case. I don't like the accuracy feeling at all with rapid fire on the Jackal, and it already kills so quick that this is not super necessary unless you're just trying to go for the absolute fastest TTK, right? To me, recoil springs is going to make most players far more dependable and far more consistent with the Jackal in their hands. And then lastly, we've got the Kompakt. This thing reminds me a ton of like the Kuda or even the MP5, right? Especially when you look at the iron sights there. Last SMG unlocked, but it's got that crazy good close range TTK. I love the feel of this thing. It's a very fun, very aggressive and consistent SMG across the board here. An actual different setup for once though too a little bit. I am running the compensator here straight up for better vertical control. You could switch this out for the recoil springs if you wanted to and get a little bit more for your horizontal as well. That's a viable approach too if you care more about that horizontal bounce, but I find this thing to be pretty accurate as is with just the base compensator on there. I like the Ranger foregrip on here yet again for the sprinting boost, and then also the better horizontal control, so we kind of attack that as well. Extended mag 1 I think absolutely works here. You could jump up to 2, but your sprint to fire and your ADS are going to take some hits. You definitely do not want to jump up to 3 in my opinion. It's just not worth it in that case for getting a 60 round mag. That's just never really that necessary in multiplayer by any means. 1 seems totally sufficient. CQB grip here definitely, because this of course is going to help out that sprint to fire speed. This getting it down to 110. The ADS is not great, but also if you have ergonomic on as opposed to the CQB, 145 sprint to fire will end up being outmatched by some other subs if they're playing a bit more aggressive. So to me, we're going to be pre-aiming a lot as is. To me, CQB is just a little bit more valuable there, but you could mix and match there, go back and forth and see what works better for your playstyle. Basically, if you're using ergonomic or CQB on any gun, any sub here, you're going to be good in one way or another, right? And then again, what a surprise, the balanced stock to close things out here as well. So across the board, we've got some very, very good SMGs, for some close range aggressiveness, for some mid-range, more like what could eventually be sniper support in Warzone style gameplay. Fun selections for sure. Let me know your favorite down in the comments below. With that being said, that's going to wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video, a like would be really appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button on your way out so you can always guarantee you're up to date with everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.